Here we are. We are at webcast number 2 here at FearFishing. We're going to fire the night up. First, I'm going to let you know who our guests are tonight. In the first part of the show, we're going to have Mike Williams, who is the reigning Angler of the Year on the Top Bass Series up here in Canada. He's won Angler of the Year the last 4 years, so he's one of the most consistent anglers and one of the most super nice guys that you'll meet on the Canadian Tour. He's just awesome. He runs tournaments. He does a ton of kid stuff. Just a super nice guy. Our second guest is going to be Mr. Angler of the Year himself, Scott Martin from the FLW Walmart Tour and his awesome TV show, The Scott Martin Challenge. So we're going to get into a lot of things with him. And, you know I'm Ian West.
Rich Farragher.
James Robb.
Amber.
And the producer, Tyler.
So let's just jump right into this. Let's get this fired up. On the last weekend, was it, Rich?
Yeah, last weekend, Saturday, you and I fished the Canadian Tire Open, Lake Erie.
Lake Erie.
For the tournament itself, weight-wise, didn't go so well for us. But
let's get right into pre-fish first. We showed up on Friday, drove the 3 hours. When we got there, and Erie didn't look so bad from shore.
It didn't. It actually looked pretty fishable.
It was windy out, and there was about 6 footers, but they were about 20 feet apart. They weren't lowered at all. Yeah, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
So we get out there, and we got on the spot that I fished for years and years and years every fall. And the first fish we catch is a 5-pounder.
Oh, yeah.
We weren't there 15 minutes.
No, I mean, we're both trying to hold our ground and shaking because it's like the biggest bass we've ever seen in our lives kind of thing.
And we get it in the boat, and then in the next 8 minutes I get 2 more.
Yeah. And
they weren't as big, but they were good sized fish. So I thought the gap between the rollers was getting closer, and it was getting like Erie nasty out.
It tightened up to be like the perfect storm.
So when we had to come in real slow because it was tough going, but I felt pretty good about this. The only thing I didn't check or take into consideration was how warm the water was for October.
Yeah, it was like unseasonably warm for sure.
It had to be up. It was still in the 60s, and usually when the fish really school up deep in Erie, it's 55 degrees or colder. So it was warm, and I didn't take this into play.
And with Friday's pre-fish, with the fish being so close together, I didn't really think about it at all.
We were pumped up when we bagged those fish. Tournament came. We went out to the deep water first thing, and we did get a couple fish, but they were small, extremely small for Erie, 15, 16-inch fish. So we made the call, let's go check shallow. And when we got shallow, we found some really good fish. We had one that was probably 5 and change, maybe a little bigger than that. Followed my jerkbait to the boat 20 times.
Oh, easy, yeah. And not to mention everything else we threw at it.
Yeah, and we were tossing everything. I was bringing it in, and Rich was throwing follow baits, Senkos. We did manage to get three or 4
Scotty's
fish.
Gonna have something to say about that.
Yeah, for sure. We did manage to get 3 or 4 fish out of the spot, but we just didn't get the big ones. And I don't know. That fish is still probably sitting right there. And here's the smart. And Rich broke off a big one on a jerkbait.
Yeah, I did. I don't know what to say about it. I mean, it was just.
Well, we weighed in 16 and change, and it was an okay tournament for the fact that I haven't fished in a couple of years, and I really hadn't taken into consideration the whole warmer water, and that was a mistake on my part.
And a 2 hour pre-fish really didn't help us too much.
No, but it an awesome event. I had a great time. There was a ton of really good sticks there.
Super well run too. I just want to send a little quick shout out to Jason Clay
And the St.
Catharines Bass Masters. What a great event! They had boats in and out of the water so quickly.
And volunteers lining trailers up.
Yeah,
It was flawless. I had an amazing time, and I'm definitely going to fish it again next year.
Oh, for sure.
I'm going to get bigger weight next year, but
I'll be.
It is what it is.
I'm going in on my netman skills.
Rich can run a net, I'll tell you. When I yell, it's a big one, get the net, he is like lightning fast.
That's funny because he tends to drop most of the big ones.
One time.
One time, you never live
It was the biggest fish of my life, man.
You're never going to live it down. 3/4 of the way to the water. Oops.
Big news in Canada that Jay's won.
Jay's won. Bautista's
throw the back.
So what are we going to do now? Every time you catch a big fish, it's just going to be a rod
throw the rod.
toss?
Oh yeah. No, this is the next big fear fishing thing. We want to see pictures of the rod toss.
The rod toss, yeah.
The attitude and everything.
But it's got to be with a 5 or 6 pounder.
Yes.
Absolutely, yeah. And just grab.
Mic drop.
And so, yeah, the Blue Jays, our guys in blue, we haven't done anything in the playoffs since '93 when we won the World Series. So that's exciting news that's happening in Canada. The other thing is that Amber and I last night went to the Nitro Circus in Toronto, which was super cool. Travis Pastrada runs an amazing show, and if anybody gets a chance to see Nitro Circus, then you should definitely check it out. Honey, anything to say about Nitro?
We watched
Bruce Cook.
Bruce Cook. Less than 2 years after a crash attempting the world's first double front flip left freestyle, motorcyclist Bruce Cook paralyzed from the waist down. The Canadian rider came back with an even more historic moment last night at the Nitro Circus live show in Toronto. The first ever backflip on a motorcycle by a paraplegic.
And it was huge. It'd take stones to do a backflip.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And they had Bruce strapped to a dirt bike. Travis picked him up, put him on this dirt bike. They put a seatbelt on it. They had leg bars to protect his legs, and he can't put his feet down, and he can't bail. So he let her rip. So there is a huge shout out tonight to Bruce Cook, who totally blew my mind, and is that's one of the most inspiring, powerful stories about no matter what life throws at you, you can press on and do the things you really love.
Yeah, for sure.
Good strong Canadian thing too. I never
Absolutely. That's it. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And the other cool thing about Nitro Circus is they grabbed 3 guys out of a crowd, and the 4 of them on a dirt bike did a backflip.
No way.
Yeah.
And
While they're all
survived.
holding on.
Yeah.
They had strapped. So
Dumb and Dumber style.
Change
it
your shorts.
was pretty-
Just let her go, man.
It was pretty epic. And they held out and they landed. And I guess this is Nitro Circus's 4th stop on their North American tour, and the first 3 were terrible crashes.
Oh,
And
yeah.
these Canadian boys pulled her off.
Nice. I guess they're in Ottawa or something tonight. Somebody was
Yep,
saying, yeah.
Ottawa.
Right on.
All right, now keeping going on what's new at Fear Fishing. Pro J Cup this weekend. Rice Lake, my home lake, 15 minutes up the road. Probably the only lake. I want to say that it's my home lake, and I have a billion spots, and I cannot win a tournament there. And there is nowhere on the planet that I would like to win a tournament more than Rice Lake. So
Rice is so different though. It's either on or it's off.
it is, and it's either. I always mess up that I'll pick largemouth. I'll think, man, today's the day largemouth, and I'll end up with 18 pounds of largemouth,
Which is amazing. Anywhere.
Totally.
Anywhere.
and somebody will bring in 22 pounds of smallmouth, and all I'll hear is, "Oh man, the smallmouth are jumping in the boat." But the next time that I'm like, "Oh, you know what? I really feel like this is a smallmouth day," Spiro will show up with 22 pounds of largemouth on a frog. So
Yeah.
Saturday, I'm going to pre-fish, and it's obviously October, and the water's definitely cold on Rice Lake, so it's going to be smallmouth. I'll hit it up and try to get something going, and then I'll call in the net guy.
Well, when we were up there a couple of weeks ago, the water was just over 60. Like,
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
pretty cool then.
And I think that kind of like Erie with the shallow fish, and there was definitely fish deep that in the 60s, they're in like a transition period. They know the cold water's coming, they know winter's coming, and they have to start feeding. So they're going to move off the shoreline and head to that deep water and really school up. When we were out there on Rice, we only got 3 or 4 fish. They weren't shallow and they weren't really deep, so they were probably in that middle of transition. The fish on Erie, because the Great Lakes are naturally so cold that 63, 64 degrees isn't even getting cool yet for those fish. That there was probably some fish that always stay deep, and that's what we hooked onto.
Yep.
And the big fish just really hadn't made that push, or they started going deep and they hadn't schooled up on the bait.
I think that's what it was, because we did find a hook here and there.
Yep.
Along the way, and then we'd find a massive group of hooks,
Yep.
But none of them.
But they were all
they wouldn't take.
Yeah, and anyone
Or
that
if they
we
did take, they were two
yeah, they were-
pounds, 2.5 pounds.
So everything's in transition, but Rice Lake being a lot smaller, I'll bet you it's 55 degrees now, and they've made that transition push, and smallies are schooled up and they're chasing bait fish. So
And the water's down a little bit too. Like
it is down. We
compared
noticed
to
that
last year even.
Yep.
Mind you, we got a bit of rain today, but that's not really going to affect it much. It's been cold for the last few days, so it should be a good fish up there.
Yeah, for sure, and it's gonna have huge weights. I want to throw out a shout out to my buddies J Mac and Scotty Burns, who last weekend fished the Bassmaster Club tournament.
It was
on
like
Rice
the Greater
Lake.
Toronto tournament, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was run by Dave Chong and his group, and our man. We got Mike Williams coming in. They weighed in 25 pounds of smallmouth bass on Rice Lake.
I just want to add real quick that was a bigger bag than the Lake Erie Simon Frost win.
That's a huge shout out to J Mac and
For sure.
Scotty Burns. That's a huge bag of fish, and that's gigantic. So now we're gonna bring in our first guest. Well, no, we're not.
We're having some video problems.
We're having technical difficulties here at FearFishing. Whoa!
It happens.
Well, let's get back to J Mac. J Mac, like that's a 25-pound bag is huge. Like that's a gigantic bag for anywhere.
Sure.
And that's the
Where were
first
they
real
fishing?
Rice Lake.
On Rice.
And then
On Rice,
25 pounds and
change.
change of smallmouth bass.
Wow.
All right, here we go. We're going to bring in our first guest, Mr. Canadian Angler of the Year himself. How's it going, my man?
Not too bad, man. Loving it. Loving life.
Loving life, living the dream. So let's jump right into this. Are you having a good night? You feel fresh?
A little busy with the kids running around rink to rink, and they're pretty involved in hockey. So
It's that time of year in Canada, eh? Everybody's
That's
strapping
right,
on the
yeah.
skates, putting the bass rods away.
I got a muskie guiding job tomorrow at a Pigeon Lake. So
Nice. I fish muskie. I like to go opening day muskie fishing, and like the last couple weeks of the season, and the pigeon can definitely hold some giants.
yeah, that's the best time to go. You got it right on the nail.
Perfect. So let's jump right into this and talk about, this is your 4th year in a row as Angler of the Year on the Top Bass Series.
Yeah. It's been quite a run.
That's like ultra consistency right there. Not just like pulling it off once or twice, but 4 years in a row. What do you feel that you do differently to make you so consistent, rather than it only takes a little bit of luck to win a one-day tournament, but to be consistent over a whole series to win that for 4 years.
in a row.
What are you really targeting out there?
We fish a lot of shallow water a lot of the time, but like everybody says, it's time on the water. I've been fishing since 95, 96, so doing a lot of guiding, doing as much tournament fishing as I can, and just that time on the water. We haven't pre-fished a lot, to tell you the truth, the last few years. We've just been relying on stuff that we have found, and just figuring the fish out as we go. I find pre-fishing a lot of the times, for me, it kind of messes with your head a little bit. You go out there and you find fish, and you go there in the tournament and they're not there, and you kind of waste time sitting on them and waiting for them to bite. I like figuring them out as I go. letting the fish tell me what to do. So I can't force them to bite and force them into a pattern.
So basically, you have like a milk run that you do that you have confidence in, and
yeah, mainly milk runs, and they include different types of water too. So if they're not going on certain stuff, then we figure that out pretty quickly and move on to some different stuff. So
I got you.
Like I say, we do a lot of shallow stuff. We do some ducking weeds and stuff like that, but a lot of our stuff is 6 feet and less. So
okay, and when you're choosing baits, is there something you throw consistently, or like I know when I'm fishing tournaments, if you know, let's say I'm going to Rice Lake, I'm going to throw a jig on the weed lines if I'm fishing weed lines, and because it's going to pick up bigger fish, hopefully, and you know if you're going to hook a smallie on a jig, it's usually going to be a good one. So, you know, a flipping jig for me is a real confidence bait, and I'll throw anything, but you know that's my go-to bait in the mornings or throughout a tournament to first start out looking for big fish. Do you have like a technique that you have confidence in? If you can tell us.
No, I have no secrets here. I just go out and fish hard, pound the water. Like you, I throw quite a bit of flipping jig. My main partner, Dwayne Jacobs, when I'm on the boat with him, he doesn't let me put that thing down. So if I pick up another bait, he's begging me to pick that thing back up. So he does a lot of the other stuff, a little slower falling baits and stuff like that. But yeah, like you, my main go-to bait is a flipping jig, and to be a consistent angler on a tournament trail or to consistently catch big fish, I think you have to throw those and get adept at pitching them into areas that other guys can't get to. When we're fishing around docks and stuff like that, I like to get it way back underneath there, make different presentations from either side of the dock, and just get that thing in there where nobody can get back in there, or not too many guys can get back in there without spooking fish. So
absolutely, and if you're going to get big fish, you got to throw the jig where and you can't be afraid to lose your jig. Like you got to get it in behind where everybody else casts to get big ones.
Exactly, and that's why I buy a ton of jigs, and at the start of the year, and I'm usually through them in the first few weeks. So I'm constantly buying jigs, and it's paid off the last 4 years, or even longer than that. We've been in contention for quite a while. So
now, are you a big color guy? Like, are you down to the science of orange tips on the crayfish?
I was actually dipping them there the other day on Lower I was there messing around. But yeah, a big color guy. I'm more natural colors though. Like I'll throw the black, maybe with electric blue or something. I got an electric blue trailer here that I use quite a bit on the black jig. But like I said, I'm more natural colors when it comes to anything, Senkos or even crankbaits and stuff like that. I like to go with a natural look and presentation, because that's what those fish I find are looking for, is something natural, something that's not foreign to them. I know a lot of guys throw pink. You won't find a lot of pink on my boat. I'll tell you that right now. But yeah, like I said, more natural guy. The brown craw, critter color, stuff like that works well for me too also.
All right, now let's get into the Stoney combo. And I was up there to watch weigh-in, and I got to talk to you quickly, and I know you're really excited about winning that event. How many years have you been fishing the Stoney combo?
How many years? Since I started fishing back in '96. My grandfather, we did a big job on Stoney Lake, actually on Clear Lake. We were building docks. He did a lot of jacking cottages and building docks and shorelines and stuff like that. So we got into building a big dock down there, and we got quite a bit of money for doing this dock, and he knew we were interested in going into the tournament trail and stuff like that. So he actually bought my cousin and I our first boat, and we were able to compete out there in Stoney Lake, and been doing it ever since. We've come second 2 or 3 times down there by close margins, and tell you what, that's a tough one to win.
It's tough to do 2
we
days.
haven't been all that close the last few years, just missing out on the top 10s and stuff like that. But
and this was an extremely hard year.
Yeah, it's a tough one to win.
It was a hard year too, and you know, when you see some of the names in that field bring in 8-pound bags, that you know it was a tough go out there. So what did you do this year that set you apart from the rest of the pack?
This year we found it tough like everybody else. We have our milk run down there like most lakes, and we went down to certain spots that weren't holding fish, and we figured that out pretty quickly. And come about noon on Saturday, we hit the panic button, so to speak, and went and fished some of our Sunday water. And it consisted of some shallow docks and sloppy stuff for largies. So we went down and hit that kind of stuff, and we're lucky in between some of those spots to pick up a couple nice smallmouth too. So we hit that panic button early on Saturday, and we ended up catching a nice fish with about a half an hour left to go on Saturday, which was pretty interesting. The net job on that, I'll have to congratulate my partner on that. He was kind of I kind of gave him trouble on the first swipe there. He missed it, and then he missed it totally the second swipe, and it was a nice 4-pounder. So we were lucky that fish stayed on for us. And then Sunday we started off the same way. We fished a deep hump for smallies where I caught a 6-pounder earlier in the year guiding, and we didn't get anything going there. So we tried that both days first off, and it wasn't going for us. So we fished another smallie spot with top water, and ended up catching a nice close to 4-pounder there early. And partner lost another 3, so we thought, oh, here we go again. We're looking at second, top 10, whatever.
Yeah.
But we went back to the water we fished on Saturday, and it reloaded for us, which was nice and doesn't usually happen. But we went back there and caught a couple more nice fish along there, and fished in another stretch that we usually do on Sunday, and that paid off for us too. So it was a tough go, but.
This tournament, did you happen to pre-fish it, or did you just show up and run through this?
No, I hadn't been there in a few weeks. Like say, since I did some guiding down there, I hadn't been down to check the waters out. We just know those areas consistently hold fish,
and so
that time of year too.
I guess you're a big believer in that. Once you find a spot that holds big fish, it'll continuously over the years hold big fish. It's kind of like docks. There's docks on trial lakes that always seem to have a big fish on them.
Yeah, exactly. And certain docks tend to be better than others. Like you'll catch a 4-pounder and go back there the next year, or a few weeks later, and it'll have another 4 or 5-pounder on it. Yeah, stuff like that. The structure, if it's good structure, fish will move in, move out, and you just got to catch them at the right time. We fish behind a lot of guys. So I know a lot of guys out there are scared to fish behind anybody or certain guys even. But we'll pretty much fish behind anybody, and we usually do pick up some fish behind them that they've missed or couldn't get at or whatever. That or the fish had just moved in at a certain time and they just missed out on them.
I have a quick question for you. When looking at docks to fish, and say this is a new lake or an old lake, whatever, what do you look for in a dock? What are you looking at and when you're passing these docks, all these docks, and say, I want to fish that dock? What are you looking for?
A lot of the times it's the dock itself, providing a good bunch of shade, nice and low to the water. I find they're the best. And usually the docks with some sort of peg structure under them. Mainly wooden. If you can find docks with wooden supports on them or cribs and stuff like that, a lot of the times those docks will be holding the fish because the bait fish like to get up in there and in those crevices, and the bigger fish are hanging out around there trying to get those fish that come out. A lot of the times it's bottom. I don't like fishing docks with a lot of weeds under them. Right. I find a lot of that weed cover just doesn't hold the fish as prominently as some of the sand bottom or rock bottom, hard bottom kind of docks. But we catch them off the mud stuff too. But so like I say, if there's a bunch of weeds or grass growing up under docks, it's tough to get bit under those kind of situations.
Okay, let's. I know you run your own fishing series. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, we run a little clubby that we do every Wednesday night. There's another clubby here in Bridge North that runs every Thursday nights, and we used to go opposite Thursday nights with them. And this year it kind of works out better for me with the kids going to my mom's on Wednesday nights. That that we run ours Wednesday night. So we do that for the guys that are just getting into it.
Yep.
And want to have something to do after work and something to look forward to midweek when they can't get out on the water. So we run it usually 5:30 to dark time, and like I say, it's every other weekend. Our series, we try to switch up the lakes. Like we went to Clear and Stoney. We've done Ketchwanuka and Lakefield. Some of the lakes you don't get to fish a lot of the times in the big series. Yeah, but it's just a lot of fun, and a lot of good guys fish that tournament. And as you see by the results in Stoney Lake, a lot of those, the 3 out of the top 4 fishing teams in the Stoney Lake tournament this year were actually from Curve Lake. So that's
awesome.
We take a lot of pride in that.
Absolutely.
A lot of good fishermen out here. So yeah.
Let's talk about the tournament you ran on the weekend where you had to dress up for Halloween.
Oh, that's coming up this Sunday.
That's this Sunday?
Nice.
Yeah, it's the classic to the club event. So we've got a lot of good guys, a lot of fun guys that fish that event, and hopefully they're all willing to dress up because I'd love to see some of the costumes you guys come up with.
And so last week it was like your open event for your series?
Last weekend we run an event called the Last Cast for the Big Bass. It's a one fish event which kind of levels the playing field from the top pros to the guy that fishes out of a tinner or want to fish with your son or kid or whatever, right? Or the inexperienced angler. It kind of caters towards them. It's a cheap event to get into. It's $100 a team, and you only have to catch one big fish. So, like I say, it levels the playing field, and it's a lot of fun. It's more geared around fun, and it's a nice way to end the year. We had 33 teams this year, which was a little bit down. It's on Thanksgiving weekend, so some years a lot of guys can make it. Some years a lot of guys can't make it. So, but like I say, it's great way to end the year. A lot of fun, and we ended up coming second this year to one of the top anglers in Canada.
Mr. Johnson.
Mr. Johnson.
He fished with his girlfriend, right?
This year. Pardon?
He fished with his girlfriend, right?
Yeah.
And that's really awesome. And everybody knows Corey. And I know some people don't like to fish against them, and I hear that complaint. But in Canada, Chris and Corey are real deal professional anglers who do this for a living. And, the opportunity to fish against those guys should excite people. Like,
exactly.
You should be there to beat them. If you want to prove yourself, then you need to beat the best, right?
Sure.
That's right. You want to be the best, you got to beat the best. And like I say, all those guys going down to the States, that's a dream of mine to get down there and compete in at that level. But at the same time, when those guys are fishing these events, you're kind of measuring. It's a measuring stick, right?
Yeah, you're testing yourself.
You're measuring yourself against what they can do down there. If you can compete with them up here, then you can probably compete with a lot of guys down south. And like I say, it's a little bigger money down there. We're hoping to get that up here in the near future, but it's a lot bigger money, and there's more on the line down there.
Have you heard anything about the FLW coming to Rice Lake this summer?
I've heard about that, and it's a very interesting and intriguing opportunity for a lot of us Canadian anglers to compete in that and possibly get a chance to get down there and do some damage down south.
And I got a chance to fish the first FLW event on Big Rideau, and it was really quite the experience and an amazing run event. And I know they're based on a 100-team field at Rice Lake. They're going to put up $20,000 for the winner, so that's a huge paycheck.
Oh, for sure. If you can get in that and get into that kind of money, then your ticket down south, you can pay for that yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's like winning twice, right? Like if you make the top 10, then you get a chance to fish for the championship to win the trip down south. And if even if you third place plays $5,000 and second place plays 10, you can get yourself into a couple Rayovacs or Northern Division Series to get that opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. But like I say, those guys spend a lot of time on the water. They're down there figuring those spots out, and they've got a lot of education and knowledge from years of fishing. I remember when I first got into it, Corey, I don't even think Chris was out of diapers yet, but I remember Corey fishing with his old man, Lynn, there, and in a lot of the events we competed against them, and they were tough to beat back then. So they've had their time on the water, and it's paying off right now. So
and that's the
biggest thing.
And if you talk to anybody who does bass tournaments, they'll tell you that time on the water is everything.
Yeah, that it is for sure. You get to learn the little subtleties and experience them for yourselves. You can hear about guys catching fish and listen to us talking about catching fish. It'll help you, but time on the water and experiencing those things for yourself is going to help you immensely, and that's what's going to put you over the top in fishing is getting that chance to get out there all the time.
So I have another question here. When you plan on going to the States, if that ever happens, and you get to play with the big boys, let's say, what would you do? And I know we're going to ask Scott Martin the same question, but how would you go down and pre-fish? We're gonna So how would you go down and break up a lake and pre-fish? Like how would you start?
Even when you're in Ontario or a new lake, how
yeah, for sure.
What advice would you give somebody to break up a lake in 4 days? Because this is what it's going to come to if the FLW in Canada, we're going to have to travel to lakes that we don't usually fish. In a short period of time, you have to find fish.
Yeah. Breaking down a lake is, I do it old school. I look at the old maps, and a lot of guys have the navionics and everything on their computers and stuff like that. I'm an old school guy. I look at the old charts and check those out and just look for little humps, little turns and weed lines around channels and stuff like that, and the docks and the shallow stuff close to deeper water. So those fish are constantly moving in and out of that deeper water to get into those shallow areas. Big flats, anything like that. That's where I usually start, is around the areas with deeper water close by and a little flat area before the shallow water. Humps, like I say, and you can talk to different anglers. You can talk to locals too, like the marina guys or tackle shops, local guys that have fished there before. Usually guys are a little bit secretive, but they'll usually give you a couple pieces of information that might help you out and help you go out there and figure some fish out. Once you get them started figuring out,
it's like it's
easier
right?
to progress from there. So the sooner you can get that kind of information, the easier it is to transfer it into your fishing strategies.
And it kind of works in a reverse to it. If you have strengths in fishing shallow, you can, if they're not shallow, you can cross that off the list, right? And you can work it in this is what I really feel comfortable in, and hopefully you find it through that chain. And then at that point, sometimes we all have to go to our comfort levels and get a drop shot in 40 feet of water. But you can work it in reverse. Instead of finding what you think they could be on, you can look at a lake and do what you're comfortable with and kind of work back till you find them.
Yeah, exactly. And different lakes call for different things, right? Like if you're on Lake Ontario, like you guys know, is a lot different than these lakes that we fish around here. You try to do the drop shot thing and you try to do the tube thing around here. It works, but you have to do it on those kind of bodies of water, and if you want to be successful. So those are some of the little things that you know going in there that you're going to have to do anyway. So just putting that and figuring them out. They got all the technology in the world right now, but it still doesn't actually put the fish on your line. So you have to go out and play with it and dig around and figure out what works for you.
All right, we got a question from social media. Amber will read it to you here.
Okay.
Scott Chandler wants to know, how do you choose a tourney partner?
How do I choose a tourney partner? Well, it's easy to do it where I'm from. There's so many good fishermen out there. You just put a name in the hat and pick one, and you're good to go. But no, my main fishing partner, Dwayne, my cousin, we fished for years together. So it's kind of like a good marriage. Like we work well together, and not that I know anything about that, but yeah, it's just finding somebody that you can really relate to, have a lot of fun out there, pick you up when you're down.
Absolutely. If you ask Marley, he's like,
Dwayne's uncle, my cousin, fished with me a couple years ago, and I don't know how many fish I missed on Seymour Lake, but he was right there telling me to stick with it, and we ended up catching 4 or 5 fish really, really late in the day. And if I hadn't had him on the boat, I don't think I would have caught those fish. I think I would have been breaking rods and everything else for how many fish I was missing. But choosing a tournament partner is just somebody that you can relate to, that you know very well. A lot of the times, like I fish with my dad, we've done well in some tournaments, and over the years we've got to fish a lot better together. But my cousin and I, we've almost thrown each other out of the boat a few times when we first started fishing. But still, you get over those things, and you just move on. So it's just somebody who can fish, and you like fishing with and enjoy the company.
I think if you ask Marley, he does more time in the boat calming me down and telling me to relax than anything else. He's kind of like my mind coach.
Yeah, exactly. And
I'll get huffing and puffing before we get a fish in the boat, and he'll tell me to stop the mental smoking and relax.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's sometimes if you get 2 people with the same personality in the boat, it doesn't work well. You may be friends on and off the boat, but sometimes that just doesn't work well for a good tournament angler and a team. Sometimes you have to have that calming personality and somebody that can just settle you down and get you to do what you do best, and that's keep the bait in the water and keep the fish calm.
Now, I know a couple weeks ago you got to film a TV show with a towel. I hope I'm allowed to talk about this. How was that experience? How was, filming's a little different than tournament fishing. How did that go?
I originally kind of did the camera boat for him last year in an episode that he did here in Curve Lake.
Yep.
We went to some of my spots during that time, and I got to know the guys pretty well and meet Italo himself. And so the producer called me this year with that opportunity, and it was just I jumped at the chance. Always wanted to be on the TV and doing what I love, and talking to the viewers and stuff like that's a lot different, and what you do behind the scenes to get ready and film those actual fish that you're catching.
Yeah,
it's a lot different than when you're tournament fishing. He's playing with a 4 or 5 pounder on the line, and in the tournament you want to get that thing in the boat as quick as possible. But when you're doing those kind of shows, you want to get it on TV because that's what it's all about.
Absolutely.
And, it's a lot different. It's a little more nerve-wracking, and to be behind the camera and filming isn't so bad on the boat when you're fishing, but when you're standing there doing a stand-up or something like that and talking into a camera with nobody there but the cameraman laughing and the sound guy laughing at you, it's a lot different, but it was an enjoyable experience, and jump at the chance to do it again.
Hey, whenever I'm fishing on film, I always think, geez, if I don't catch something soon, I'm not gonna have any fans anymore.
Exactly.
I gotta get one here.
I enjoy what you guys do with the GoPros and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to do that and get behind those kind of things and just throw it out on the web for people to check out and stuff. That's
maybe we can have like a Scott Martin challenge.
Yeah, maybe we can.
Going on
Yeah.
here.
We can get up to Curve Lake.
You guys can come down anytime. I'll take them on down here. We can switch it up and go down there.
We'll ask you.
Yeah.
I know you do a lot of things for kids revolving around fishing and getting young people into the sport. Can you tell us some of that stuff?
Yeah, like I say, my grandfather, my parents, everybody was a big influence on me growing up. My grandmother taught me how to fish and bass fish. I lived at the camp for summers doing that with her, and it just kind of taught me that you have to give back.
Absolutely.
As Native people, you're always taught that. You're taught to respect. You're taught to honor. You're taught to pass on your wisdom to the younger generations and stuff like that. So that's always been a part. I think this year was our 7th or 8th year doing we do a spring crappie fish with the kids out here in Curve Lake. So anything you can do for your community or kids whether it be hockey, baseball, fishing, whatever, anything you can get the kids involved in, it's going to keep them out of trouble later on.
Absolutely.
And it's going to give them that grounding. It's going to give them something to go back to if times get tough and stuff like that. You always have a fishing rod. You can always go down to the lake and catch some fish. And plus, it's a great way to spend the day with the family, helping out, teaching these kids, and it's a great family experience. It's just a lot of fun, and it gets people involved. I've had a lot of positive feedback from doing those events, and that's what keeps me doing it. If people are liking it, then I'm doing something right.
And that's really good. And everybody fishing tournaments should remember that there is young people watching, and take a second out of your day to talk to any young people at the boat launch or on docks. I know you spend a ton of, we all flip docks, and most of the time the most exciting part of the day is to talk to some young person who's fishing off the end of the dock and how excited they are to see the bass boats. And I think a lot of times that tournament guys overlook that kids are watching them, and there's a lot of young people out there who inspire to be us.
Yeah, for sure. You got to set a good example, and just talking to the kids and being interested in what they're doing gets you interested in what you're doing. So they take a lot of interest, and the more interest, like I say, you can show them, and the more little tips and hints you can give them, they suck it all in. They're little sponges. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's great for our sport to do that. And that's a way of giving back too, is just talking to people and explaining what you're doing. Even if a guy's coming down at his dock and doesn't want you to fish there, whatever. We've all experienced that.
Yep.
Just try to be pleasant, move along, and
just be a good ambassador of the sport.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't want to make any enemies for the rest of the guys or the next guy coming down the line.
For sure.
Just be polite and move along and have a good day and see you later. We won't bug you anymore.
Well, we're gonna have to wrap this up, but before we let you go, we've kind of started this tradition at FearFishing where our guests have got to tell us their best fishing story before they get off the air. So let's hear it.
Best fishing story. You put me on the spot.
Yeah,
here.
for sure. I probably should have mentioned this before.
My mind. Best fishing story. One of my clients from Stoney Lake, we were sitting around the table one night, and after fishing and spending the night there and stuff like that. So we're sitting around the table having a glass of wine, and one of the old fellas stepped up and said, "Everybody at this table is coming to my place next spring to fish, to do some fishing for a fishing trip." And I kind of looked at them, and I'm the guy's got a place down on Lake Fork, so it's always been a dream of mine to get down there and fish some big bass down there. And this was my son was just born, I think, so he's an infant, and about 5 or 6 years ago. And I kind of looked around at everybody, and I was like, "Am I included in this?" And they're like, "Yeah, you're coming." I'm like, so that's one of my good fishing stories. We went down there and had a blast and caught some nice fish. No giants, but we caught a lot of nice fish and met some really cool people that are still friends with me on Facebook and stuff like that.
That's awesome.
Some of the guides down there. Just the people you meet through fishing is amazing.
That is one of the things.
I
like
couldn't
meeting
be here
people.
or do any of this kind of stuff without the support of my family. And I'm sure a lot of fishing guys would say that, but my kids sacrifice a lot having me away a lot of the time, spending time on the water. So I got to thank them and thank my mom and dad for watching them a lot of the times when I'm out fishing. So.
Well, that's awesome, Mike, and you're one of the gems in fishing. And everybody I talk to says what a wonderful guy you are, and we're really lucky to have you up here fishing tournaments and being a great ambassador to the sport of fishing.
Well, thank you guys for having me on.
Anytime, it's been our pleasure, man.
If you ever want me to come back and blabber again, I'd be happy
Absolutely.
to do it. But yeah, you guys are doing a great thing, and really appreciate it. Getting the word out there about these Canadian anglers, man. They're
the real deal,
guys in the sport, and I look forward to fishing with you guys and against you guys in upcoming tournaments.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to be with us.
No problem, guys. Take it easy. Hey,
All right,
have a good night.
We'll
Tell
talk to you
Austin I
soon.
want to challenge him on any lake he wants to go.
We will do. Thanks,
Guys.
man.
Have a
Bye.
good one.
Bye.
What an awesome guy.
One of the nicest guys in fishing,
Yeah.
and no matter who I talk to, they all have the same thing to say. What an awesome guy he is, and he's truly a gem and an ambassador to the sport.
Yeah, and I didn't really clue in right away, but when he was talking about the kids fishing thing with the crappie tournament and whatnot, he might know this. My grandfather was Stuart McHugh, and he just kind of lived just down the road from him. I didn't really clue into who he was at first, but
That's awesome.
thanks for setting up the events for kids. That's awesome
And that goes a long way, right?
for sure.
Like, I went to the Red Ring Derby in Peterborough when I was a kid with my grandmother and my parents, and getting kids into fishing at a young age really leaves an impression on
does.
them.
Yep, 100%.
So I think we got a couple minutes here. Do we got any questions from the social media feeds?
We do. Just let me pull them up here. I've been slacking.
Doesn't surprise me.
No. Super easy question from Scott Berry. I think it's Berry.
Yep, yeah.
Brewery. Okay. On a tournament, do you focus on just smallies or largies, or do you go for a mixed bag?
It really depends on the lake and the weather. If I was fishing, normally there's some lakes that I would go out and fish smallmouth, and when I thought I had a good bag of smallmouth, I would head to find a kicker largemouth. And in reverse, there's some lakes where I would go fish for largemouth, and if I had, let's say, 16, 17 pounds of smallies, I would head in shallow and look at largemouth.
Yeah,
and really trying to get a donkey out of there. In the summertime, on Rice Lake, for example, I'd fish smallies in the morning. If it wasn't going, I'd leave and go fish largemouth. If it was going, I'd get as many smallmouth as I could, and then I would start picking off my big largemouth spots, hoping to run across the giant to kicker the bag.
So a mixed bag, basically.
Well, mixed bags, unless you're on somewhere like Simcoe or
is
Erie.
it a comfort thing though? Like, do you find, like, my preference is going out fishing for largemouth.
Yep.
I prefer the style. I use a lot of flipping, whatever. I'm not the greatest at catching smallies. Like, I would instantly go and I would start fishing for smallies or for largemouth. Is it a comfort thing to go and try to make your bag out of what you like prefer to fish first?
You should always fish what you're confident in. Yeah.
Like, you hear guys around the docks, and there's always a buzz. Oh, it's going to be a great smallie day. It's going to be. And like, do you stick to your plan? You know.
In all honesty, if I heard them talking that the largemouth have been on fire, I'd go smallmouth fishing because they're all probably lying to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's all what you have comfort in. If you go to a lake and you have comfort catching smallmouth, then that's what you should fish. If you go to, if you only have confidence in catching largemouth and you know there's enough largemouth in the lake to win the tournament, then that you should do whatever. It's a mind game, right? Whatever you feel confident in catching fish on.
Okay, Keith Duster. What have you learned the most the last couple of years?
Patience.
Patience is a big
Slow
thing.
down. Be
That
patient.
bass boats suck back a lot of fuel.
Yeah, for sure. They're not cheap to run. I would think that there's, and maybe we can post this in the YouTube link, but there's a video on YouTube of Mike Iaconelli fishing a chatterbait that changed the way I fish and changed. So I think I fish a completely different style today than I would have 3 years ago. Where in the fact that I'm better now at catching fish in between docks rather than only on the docks. So I think over the last 3 years, the biggest thing I've learned is to win tournaments and to do really well in tournaments, it's not the fish that you know should be there, it's the fish that are in between the docks. And like Mike was saying, that he'll fish behind people. Mm-hmm. As soon as you get to that confidence where you can go behind someone because you know you can pick up a good fish in between the docks. If they missed one on the dock, you might get it. But in between docks, that's what'll change the game for you.
For sure.
Getting those. The biggest thing that's changed for me is I'm getting those fish that I didn't 3 years ago.
Yep.
Okay, another one. Mike Small. Ian, I have a question for you. How'd you come up with the name FearFishing? How did it all start?
Well, it started.
It is a funny story.
It started in 2008, and we had a not such good name. So me and my tournament partner Marley, I was like, we need to come up with a really good name. So basically, we got we each wrote down about 200 different names on a piece of paper, and we got really drunk. And when it was like boring, stumbling conversation, somebody pointed at FearFishing, and I went, that's a great idea. Let's do that. And then over the years, when I really thought about it, I think about FearFishing doesn't mean I fear the fish. It means how tough it is to fish at this level.
Yeah.
When you, like, for instance, on the weekend, there were 7-foot rollers in Lake Erie, and I knew in order to do well, we're going to go out there and we're going to bust ourselves out because we have to go, or we're going to get absolutely slaughtered tomorrow. When it's, freezing cold outside and it's tournament day, you got to go. If it's pouring rain, you got to go. And maybe not so much fear the fish, but fishing isn't easy, and it's definitely something you should take under consideration. Is fearing it.
We got time for one more, or we gotta have a little break?
We're gonna wrap it up, the first part of the FearFishing webcast, and we'll be back with Scott Martin. End of the year.
If we didn't get to your questions, we'll try to get them in the second half.
We'll get them in the second half. We're gonna see you guys back in a minute.
Keep them coming.